We are live with our continuing coverage from Media Day here at the beautiful BYU Broadcast Building. Grateful to have a couple of former BYU Cougars with us, national champions at that, and now involved in the program in different ways. Trevor Matich is an ESPN analyst, and Coach Robert Anae back to be the offensive coordinator and help out with the offensive line. How are things going for both of you today?
Great. It's great to be back. Great to be around. A lot of exciting things going on here.
Coach,
Excellent.
How are you feeling?
Excellent. Be next to Trevor. All I need is a call and a direction.
Ringo.
Just spot the ball. Let's go.
Obviously, going back to your playing days when you played on that 84 national championship team together, what's it like to reunite now almost 30 years later and be doing different things with your lives?
Almost 30 years later. It's been that long.
Well, the thing is, he was 12 and I was 10. We were both prodigies when we played here. You know, it's interesting. You look at guys on that team, and we've got real estate developers, oil tycoons, cardiologists, high school coaches, teachers. You've got guys that whatever they're doing, whether or not the title on the business card is exciting or whether it's ordinary, they excel at what they do. And you look now at the lives that a lot of those guys have led on that team, and you can see what led to what they've done now. And it's the same thing that led to that national championship. There were stars on that team, but nobody thought that they were a star. We're all pulling together, and that's what we see now, and that's what we see with Robert. I mean, Robert is one of the most respected coordinators in the country, and he's earned it. And part of the reason, I think, is the way he learned how to play football from his coaches here.
Coach, how does it make you feel to hear a former teammate and now an analyst say that about you?
Well, Trevor had these skills way back when we were young men. He was able to express himself, and there's no surprise that he's done well, especially in the media deal. He's got the talent, always has. Him and Vi, there's no secret why those guys are doing what they do.
That's because we talked about it. Robert just did it. See, there's the difference. There's the difference.
They have the skill, and there's no secret to me. And that showed up years ago when we were younger.
Coach, you're back to run the now go hard, go fast offense. What changes are we going to see off the bat compared to the team that we've seen the past couple of years?
Well, I don't know. All I can say is about what we're trying to channel here forward. And we're looking forward to living up to the BYU brand of offense. And talking with Trevor, BYU's got a national brand. And I would like to live up to that. Yeah. And to get us there, I do believe to go fast and go hard are going to be excellent ways to value to get us there.
You look at a team like Oregon, and naturally they're the ones that come to mind. They run a lot of plays, they run fast. Trevor, do you feel like BYU can put up the kind of offensive production that a Ducks team has, given the right weapons?
I think they can. And the thing is, it's not about really numbers. It's about winning.
Yeah.
And so it's about using the scheme, using the pace, with the players that you've got to produce wins. And how many yards you have really isn't really relevant. I mean, Oregon will put up 600 yards on some teams, but part of the reason for that is that their talent is so much better than some teams that they play, that if they get a small crease, it's 80 yards and a touchdown, so the numbers get padded that way. And so I'm not really interested in how the stats are, but just rather how they win or lose the games. And one of the great things that I think that BYU has in its advantage is the kind of kid that comes here. We always talk about the service academies, Army and Navy and Air Force, about how they get a certain level of kid that is exceptionally coachable, that is exceptionally committed, that restricts off-field distractions. And so there's more focus on the field and in preparation. That same kind of kid comes here. And so for many years you had complex option schemes being run by the service academies at a high level of efficiency that other teams with more talent and size weren't able to stop all the time. Well, here at BYU, they've got the ability to be able to run schemes that require kids to be exceptionally coachable, because they are. And when you do that, coaches like Robert, they have a great time, because now all of a sudden they can take so much of what's happening in their head and know that they can get it onto the field through those players.
Coach, there was so many games that BYU was in last year that they couldn't close the deal. You talk about winning, getting wins and closing the deal. How do you discipline a team so that late in the game they're making plays and not watching games slip away?
Well, you keep referring to last year's team. And you know, I think I'm kind of honored to be next to Trevor and refer to the '84 team.
Sure.
For me, the excitement is what's ahead.
Yeah.
I hope our team will do what the defense has done. The defense has been able to bottle magic, in my opinion, and they've done it with having effort as their core value. And that's what I hope that the offense will embrace as well. If you go on Saturday and see the defense and the offense and the special teams working at the same fanatical pace, that's a team unified. And that's what I hope we show. And man, the possibilities that come from that, tremendous.
You have some great weapons coming back, and some young weapons, Taysom Hill, Jamal Williams. How are they going to fit into this new offensive scheme, and how much will their roles expand?
Looking forward to it. They have the skills to be successful at quarterback, at running back, at wideout. We do have work to do with the offensive line and a huge influx of players. Looking forward to that development. But more than anything, I think as we bond as a unit, I look at the group. If we could challenge our grit and our condition and match that to our opponents, I really do like the matchup, because I believe our guys are trained at such a level right now to prepare them for that. And if, on Saturday, when it comes down to that, that's what I hope the game comes down to: grit and will and condition.
See, that's one of the things I like about talking with Robert. We had lunch about a month ago, and sushi, and we were talking plays, and he cleared the table and started diagramming pass patterns with sushi and wasabi, right? Now, keep in mind, he was an assistant coach for Mike Leach for many years when he was down at Texas Tech. Then last year he was an assistant coach in Arizona with Rich Rodriguez, who made that West Virginia offense so famous. And all these different things that he learns from a standpoint of flash, from a standpoint of how to defeat a defense, how to get an advantage here and there. But you combine that with what you talked about, with grit and will. Keep in mind where he came from. He is an offensive lineman. He played center junior year, and we ranked like 7th in the nation that year. He was guard senior year, offensive line, played part of that year with a boxing glove on his hand because it was broken, you know, and was one of the best, not just linemen, football players on the team. So you combine all the flash and whiz and everything else, whiz bang, spectacular stuff, with the grit and the will, and he can do that because he lived it. Now it's going to be a matter of the players to be able to actually execute, because they've got the example right there. When I say Robert's one of the most respected coordinators in the country, I'm not kidding.
Well, to have him back in that seat, and now the experience that's coming back with this BYU team, I'm going to ask you, because you're an analyst, you look at this schedule, what kind of potential does this BYU team have as far as national prominence goes?
Well, I think the Chinese symbol for crisis, or for danger, is crisis and opportunity.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so this is the way the schedule is. Because when you look at it, at Virginia, Texas, Utah, Georgia Tech, Boise State, at Wisconsin, at Notre Dame, and don't sleep on those road trips to places like Nevada and Utah State. That's tough as well. And so the opportunity there, if they can pull off the wins, is that they will be in the national discussion for the BCS at the end of the season. And because of the way the schedule is balanced, if they can get through the first part of the season with no more than about one loss, because it's backloaded now, and they've got Wisconsin and Notre Dame later on in the season, they still have a chance from a national standpoint to be in that BCS conversation. You know, but they've got to do their part. They've got to win, and they've got to make sure that those early games, that they win most of those games. But the potential is there for BYU to make another run this year if everything falls the way it needs to fall.
Both of you can chime in on this question. This comes from Twitter. Again, hashtag BYU Media Day if you want to get involved. What is the national view of BYU and the BYU-Utah rivalry specifically? Do people outside of Utah care about this rivalry? Robert, you've been outside of the state. What do you think?
You know, wherever I am in my coaching career, I've always tied into the ward that I live in. And every ward that I'm in, when it's Utah BYU week, it's just mayhem. The good ward members, they just go crazy. And that's in every ward that I've been in. You know, it's to me, it's fun and an exciting rivalry. And it's worth playing because people are so invested in the game. So, you know, I think it's good. I think it's real good for both schools, both universities to play and have that game.
Yeah, I hope they keep it going. I really do. I understand Utah's point that, you know, they have the Pac-12 schedule to deal with, but look at BYU's independent schedule right now. You know, and the thing is, at ESPN, I can tell you this, on campus at Bristol, BYU Utah week, everybody's talking about it. Everybody buzzes about it. All you hear is holy war, holy war, holy war. What was that like? And so I tell them part of the truth because I didn't want them to know the whole truth, but it was pretty intense. Although I will tell you this, though, that they always ask, what's it like to lose to your big rival, Utah? I said, I don't know. I was 4 for 4 against those guys. I have no idea what it's like to lose to Utah. So, you know, good for them, and I respect their program, but hey, I can only go with what I know.
That's fantastic stuff. Coach, the opportunity to play against Utah, was it as intense in the early 80s as it is now with all of the national media?
It's a great game. You know, I'm from Hawaii, and there used to be a BYU-Hawaii rivalry.
Yeah.
And guys would show up with tea leaves and Hawaiian salt and throw it all over you and shake it at you and chant. The stadium was packed. That game was worth playing. That dissolved. Utah-BYU rivalry, that game's worth playing because people are interested in the outcome. So why not play it? There's plenty of game, there's plenty of college football where nobody cares. The stands are empty, this, that, and the other. Why not play games that people really care about? That's my take on it.
College football is unique and it's special. And one thing that makes it special is those rivalries. Yeah. And I'm all for college football programs and as a group making as much money as they can, maximizing all the potential. I'm for that. But you don't maximize long-term by diminishing what makes you different. Because college football is really different from its professional counterpart, the NFL, more so than any other college to pro sport. When you look at the NBA versus college basketball, you've got March Madness versus NBA playoffs, a lot of similarities in there. College football has a lot of differences, and the rivalries are part of that. Although I will tell you this, one memory of going to Hawaii is that always there's some young guys, freshmen, sophomores, that come out of the snows of Provo and they go to Honolulu. I'm going to the beach.
They get sunburned.
They get sunburned.
Lobster red to show up to play.
And then you got to pull those jerseys with the shoulder pads down over your body, right? And you got somebody on the front, somebody on the back pulling them down if they're tight like they should be. And these people are screaming in pain. And the older guys are just sitting back thinking, yeah, Rook, yeah, that's the last time that'll happen to you. Because you go on the beach, and for the first 20 minutes you feel pretty good. You don't realize you're burnt, so you stay another hour, and then the next day it's like, woo. So that Hawaii trip is always fun for a variety of reasons.
Well, that 1984 season and that Hawaii game in particular saw one of the great defensive plays in history with Kyle Morrell making the flip. Yeah,
unbelievable.
What was your take on that? What was going through your mind? You saw him attempt it first of all and then complete it.
I think that might be the greatest football play I've ever seen at any level. Greatest individual play. There might be others that are up there at that level, but when you look at the individual play that it was. I mean, Kyle went outside of the scheme. He had a hunch. He read the snap count, and he just jumped over the line, was upside down when he got over the line, grabbed the back of the quarterback's jersey while he was upside down, his feet about 10 feet in the air, and then pulled him backwards. And they got a field goal, I think, instead of a touchdown, and we just barely won that game by a few points. That was the difference in that game. So the individual play was spectacular. The way it looked was astonishing because that one still of him inverted and grabbing the back of the quarterback's jersey right on the nameplate, Rafael Cherry, I think it was. And then you look at the magnitude of it. Because if we didn't win that game, we didn't win the national championship. And BYU was the first team that's not one of the major names in the modern era to have won the national championship. Matter of fact, only, I think, right? And so that never would have happened if Kyle Morrell doesn't make that play. So from a standpoint of how it looked to the fans, to how the play was executed and the magnitude, that's a great all-timer of a football play.
It was a special season, no doubt about it, and you can tell that it certainly shaped your lives, and now here you are here. It's been great to have both of you and great to hear both of you reminisce about that season and talk about the upcoming season. Thanks for your time.
It's really fun.